This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so hi everyone. My name is Michelle. I'll be taking over as the NDC intern for next week. And I just wanted to introduce Ms. Charmaine Davis. Some of you may remember she was here a couple of weeks ago, but just a brief introduction. Ms. Charmaine Davis is a native Baltimorean who brings over 20 years of financial management experience dedicated to the government and nonprofit environment. As an advocate of community schools, she works with the Harvard Business Center, and the Harvard Business Center collaborated with a lot of community organizations to support the youth with workforce development, job placement, training support, monitoring, and evaluation of successful job placement for today's youth. So yeah, we're here to welcome her, and you can take it away.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Good morning, all. Happy Saturday to you. Let me see. Okay, good. So last time I was here, we had a discussion. We kind of veered off into the discussion of different types of entities. So I put in the chat a link that gave the pros and the cons of different types of entities. It goes through the S Corp, C Corp, LLC, and all of that good stuff. So not to go over it, but just for your reading pleasures. And that is from the tax perspective and some business perspective. Now, ultimately, you have to find what entity works for you. So I also wanted to revisit the B Corp. It was some question about that and how they were taxed. So they do not have a separate tax rate. They are taxed as the same as an S Corp or C Corp, depending on which election you choose. So I wanted to make sure I clarified that. And right now, 39 states acknowledges the B Corp, and I think 11 states has it in legislation. So I just wanted to give you that from last meeting. Now, this session is going to be totally different. This one is all about you. So Adriana sent out your last week's meeting, and I saw that you were speaking with the lender. I think it was Shared Capital. And they were talking about how do you prepare a package for funding. So, and if you Google like a business plan or putting together a projection, it can be a little intimidating. And I've worked with clients where they'll plop some numbers in and say, okay, well, here's my projection. And I just want to kind of give you some behind the scenes of how you paint your picture that works for you. And not everybody's projection is going to look the same. Not everybody's business plan is going to look the same. So this requires all of your participation. So either through chat or a talk. This is a hands-on meeting here. So I break it down. I saw in last week's meeting, I think they broke it down in 5 C's. You know, I don't like a lot of words. I'm a numbers person, so I break it down to 3, but it still covers the same content. So it's character, capacity, collateral. So this character, this is where we're going to really dive deep into, especially if you're a startup or you don't have consistent cash flow. You're looking to expand your product line. This is where it relies on your expertise, your relationships, how you leverage partnerships, and you have to convey that to a complete stranger where it makes you look attractive. So we're going to practice, and this is the time that we can't be embarrassed or humble, because you never know, whatever your reason is for your why or whatever happened to you in the past could be used to help support you in the future. So we have to look at those as lessons. And I'm going to give you an example. I was on a call with a person. She was a social worker, and she worked with children that were in abusive households. And so I asked her, I said, well, what's your why? And she said, well, I came from an abusive household as a child, but I didn't press charges against my abuser, and they're still out there. And but I don't want to make that public. And I told her, and I said, and that's, I'm sorry that you went through it. I said, but that's your why. And and because that's your why, other people can gravitate and relate to why you're so passionate about helping other children. And with that why, there are funders out there to say, wow, she gets it and she understands this. We're going to help support her mission. I said, we don't want to make you the poster child and don't want you to revisit that trauma. But how do you package that where people know that you're not kind of the outside looking in? So that's where, and that goes into your character. We can't put that on, that doesn't show up on a credit application. And with the CDFIs, they're more in tune. They know more than likely there's a lot of startup, and they're specializing in the small businesses. They're specializing in disenfranchised. They're specializing in low income, or they know that you are mission driven. So they know the cash flow is not. It's a totally different concept than in a for-profit industry. So that's where they depend a lot on you telling your story of the character. But now the other trick to it is, I'm a numbers person and the banker's a numbers person. You got to be short and sweet with that story. I've seen business plans, some elaborate, beautiful business plans, about 30 pages long. I'm not reading. I read that first paragraph. I'm going to the projection, and I'm going to their marketing strategy. Those are the top three. And then that first paragraph, that should tell me your why. So we get ready to go into our exercise. So I'm gonna give everybody probably about let's see, it's 10:17. I'm gonna give you about 5 minutes. Now, how we write this up, we're gonna go into our character first. What is the part of the reason of the why? And you can share as much or as little as you like. And what makes you special? What makes you qualified to do what you do? I don't want to hear about your degrees and this and that. What is it that's special in? And if it is your degrees, then that's beautiful too. But let's just start. And like I said, I'm not a wordy person, so I like to I'm an outline person. So I'm not going to do complete sentences. I'm gonna do my why along with it, and then we're gonna all share out. Oh darn, I can't type why. I guess I can put it in the chat. I'll write it down and share out with everybody. Okay, technology went bad. It just, I don't know what just happened. Okay, here we go. So is everybody with me? I see we got about 14. So I'm gonna say if we have about 5 minutes I'll give you till 10:25, a little over 5 minutes, that we'll share out what are some of the things that make you special? What motivates you to do your business? What motivated you to start your business? And why do you do the things you do? Okay? All right, y'all got to give me a little because I can't really see you.
Are we sharing this in the chat or are we sharing it on the screen?
You don't have to, we'll share out, we'll speak on it. So after about 5 minutes, then we'll go through each person to share out.
Okay then.
Is that good?
Good.
All right, so is everybody good? It's about a minute early. And I'm gonna start the round off, and then I'll then have everybody else share their why. So my why started off as simple as someone helped me who did not have to. So I felt it was you reach one, teach one. That's where it originally started. Then it became I wanted to educate and empower my community around finances. Now, here are some of my check the boxes, and we'll go over the check the boxes. And oh, my third was I'm a mother. I want to teach my children more than what I was educated with at their age. So my check the boxes is depending on who my audience is and depending on where this funder is located, these are my check the box. I'm a native Baltimorean. I grew up in West Baltimore. Black, African American, a woman. I can give you all my schools. Baltimore, we're a high school city. So I would throw out I'm a Western alumni. And if this is if it's not a Baltimore area, then I'll tell about my college. I'm Towson and Johns Hopkins alumni, and I'm an accountant. So those check the boxes are, you never know what's going to grab people's attention. And when you are asking for money, you have to check their box. They may want to give money to, this is only for urban communities. This may only be for Black community. This may be for Latino, whatever that box is. Or we may be looking for alumni of different schools. So whatever your story is, and whatever that background is, these were some of but mine was very simple. I just wanted to educate and empower. And mostly my target audience is small businesses. And if I had to filter it down, I don't discriminate I do all small businesses. However, most of my clientele are Black small businesses. However, I have Latino, white, Jewish, whoever will come, that's who I service. And the other thing that where it started, where I wanted to go further in accounting, I remember when I was at Towson, I was sitting next to a young lady, one of my classmates. She was a Jewish young lady, and she had a 4.0. I didn't have a 4.0. So I was always told, you sit next to the smartest person. So I would ask her when it was time for job placements, you know how you have to go in the interviews, the different recruiters come to the college. I said, why are you not going down there to speak to the different recruiters? She's like, oh, the only reason why I came here is so I could get an accounting degree to do the accounting for my family's business. I thought that was amazing. I had never heard of that before in the community that I grew up in. And not to say it didn't happen, but I just say, wow, so you just going to college just to work for your family? I thought it was amazing and then limiting. Like, damn, you forced to work with, you don't have to find a job. But on the flip side, like, damn, you don't have to worry about finding a job. So it was just different things that had my kind of wheels burning. And it had made me think, like, what if I was just going to college just so I could work for my family's business? That would be something different. All right. So that was my why. So who's next?
I'll go next, Ms. Davis.
Miss Page, Tiffany, thank you.
You're quite welcome. My why is actually kind of similar to yours in that I'm a mother as well. And I think motherhood kind of drives everything that I do. I kind of feel like I'm just mother to everybody a little bit. And I just put some of my qualities down. I put patient to an extent. I'm a good listener, good advisor. I'm pretty gifted at modifying curriculum and kind of coming up with analogies to help my students and clients. Whereas though if they're having difficulty with technical things, I can kind of give them like some real life application to make it applicable to them. I believe I'm a visionary. I believe I'm motivating. I'm not very shy, so I'm vocal. I'm good at meeting people where they are. I don't believe that I'm very critical. If people I'm good at meeting them where they are, and I specialize in Black males. Actually, my mother passed away when I was a baby, so I was raised by a Black man. I'm a single mother of 3 Black boys. So, I'm surrounded by Black men. I'm also pretty gifted in specializing with behavior problems. I was a behavior problem in school. I know, shocking. I was pretty defiant. So I'm pretty good at reaching those groups of individuals. And I believe in Maslow's over Bloom, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I believe that if we can meet, people's needs, that we can get them to grow in their level of thinking with Bloom's taxonomy. So those are some of the things that keep me going and working with both students and businesses alike. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. So that's your first paragraph. You gave us an intimate look into where you are, that I know if I'm looking for support of a youth that are not engaged in school, not engaged in work, you're my person to call. So that is, thank you. Okay, who's next?
Well, I feel compelled to go next. That's my business partner, so I can go right after Ms. Page.
Mr.
That's no
Martin.
problem.
Good
All
morning.
right, so I just put in here that I've seen firsthand the trials and tribulations that occur when schools and communities collaborate or fail to do so. My work as a teacher and school administrator has empowered me to be the voice of my community, and my goal is to integrate, and inspire. My check the boxes that I specialize in urban education. I am Dominican, Spanish speaking, immigrant family, and also focus on special education.
Mr. Martin shows me up again. Thank you, Mr. Martin, for your highly articulated. That was beautiful.
Yo, I took your educated and empower and flipped that thing to inspire and integrate. That's all I heard, and I flipped it real quick. That's all.
So here it sounds like we have a technical writer on the team here. Excellent. Yeah, that's good. You're the educator facilitator. I like it. Who's next?
I can go. Mine's just kind of written down, so let me know if it sounds too cold or calculated, I guess.
You speaking from the heart, Mr. Damon. This is your story.
Thank you. My mission is to empower underestimated creative leaders to realize their potential and bring impactful change to their community. Since birth, I've had the gift of creativity, and since middle school, I've leveraged that talent to support myself, my family, and community. Um, My current venture, Artistry Studios, founded in 2015, has amassed nearly 3.5 million in revenue with an average 10% net profit margin. Over those last 6 years, I've learned a lot, had a lot of wins, and had a lot of learning lessons. And as I look to the talent here in the community of Central Indianapolis, I am and from that same talent pool. And so we've created Creative Cafe as a platform in a learning classroom to share those lessons with the growing and sometimes disengaged, overlooked next generation of talent here in the city.
Nice. I like that. I like how you incorporated, you talked about your population and you gave some financial, gave a little taste on the financial, on what you've done before and how much you've raised. So I really like that. Yeah, I think it was perfect. That sounds good.
Thanks.
Well, I can go next. And what I wrote down isn't anything near what we're supposed to be writing, I think. But I'm going to say it anyway.
Please do.
I mean, I don't have the little checks and things like that. I just wrote a why I wanted
Yes.
to do this business. And I'm going to read what I wrote. So I began volunteering at Plantation Park Heights Urban Farm in Baltimore, Maryland. And I began volunteering after my first visit there. Their mission to grow 250,000 pounds of food in the middle of Baltimore City using the community, parents, children, adolescents enticed me. The energy was contagious, so I latched on. Food disparity in inner city Baltimore is a crisis. The need to eradicate food deserts, provide quality produce, and make it sustainable for the community is vital. I am a registered nurse with 51 years experience working with mainly inner city people. I believe that ending food disparity will end a lot of the medical problems that my community faces, and making this project sustainable through the use of the community and teaching them how to grow their own foods, how to pick foods that are good, is vital for our community to succeed. Working with the community also expands relationships. Um, as I meet people every day, we're talking. Um, and when you do that, you also find out other things that they need, mental health services, um, services, just in general, maybe for their homes and housing, and learning how to do different things. There's a lot of stuff that people need that you can't find out about unless you can sit around and talk to them. The venue that's built at the farm is a venue that provides that type of energy. So that's it. That's as far as I got.
No, that was beautiful. That was so you gave a little personal snapshot that you were a nurse and for 51 years, and you see the significance of eating healthy and how that can impact a community and bringing food to address it. So you did address it. What I would say is, and I think it was great that you gave some background on what attracted you to the whole the urban gardening. So I think it was that was just perfect. But my question would be, if you were looking for some type of funding, would you be looking for it on behalf of the plantation, or are you looking to do something outside of it, maybe expand the services?
Uh, Outside, probably to expand the services if I was looking for the funding.
If you were, okay. So that would be my only comment. If you were looking for the funding, you would just talk about that experience and translate how you would do it, how you would put your spin on it. That's it. But I think it was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, who's next?
I'll go next. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome.
That's Crystal. Yes.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. So I put down, I'm a holistic plant-based health and wellness transformation coach and educator. I've been a health nut since I was a young kid, and I wanted to prevent illness in my family and convince my mother to stop smoking when I was 6 years old. Most of the women in my family are obese, and a new diet played a huge part in their health. I pursued a master's degree in public health to further my ability to serve and educate my community. I make healthy living easy, nutritious, delicious, and fun, with a focus on plant-based foods to help my community live a healthier, compassionate, and more vibrant life. I use a whole person approach to focus on mind, body, soul, and spirit to improve the quality of life for all beings. I'm a vegan, so I incorporate all of that together. And we offer Holistic Wellness Health offers healthy plant-based cooking classes, wellness workshops, health coaching, gardening consultation, and mindfulness meditation. I work to improve food justice, food sovereignty, and sustainable food access. In addition to my master's in public health and health administration, I'm a certified permaculture designer and certified Baltimore City master gardener and food safety educator. I teach people to grow, harvest, preserve, and cook food. And that's as far as I got.
That's beautiful. That's it. They gave a nice snapshot. You gave a little history of growing up, which you do, all your certifications. Well written. Another technical writer in on the team. Yeah, doing great. Within 5 minutes, I mean, that speaks volume of that. You're writing your executive summary of your business plan. That's the first paragraph. Before we get into the numbers, it's capturing that, and they're thinking in mind a lot of your application, that's a computer algorithm, but your business plan and what you write up, that's personal. It's another person that's reading it. So I like how everybody gave a personal snapshot, and it made me connect in some way, shape, or form with the vegan and the gardening. I love gardening. I'm a pescatarian, so I'm into the health, the education of the kids. That's my sweet spot with the youth. So it's something that I think I'm a mother, or, it's something that people connect, and you never know whoever's reading your document where they can connect to you, and you never know who's going to be your advocate without you even knowing about it. Okay, who's next? Oh, someone says they got kicked out. Mr. Jeff, you're quiet over there.
That's because I don't think I'm going to get the loan after you hear what I have to say.
No, tell the
Um,
truth, shame the devil. Go ahead.
right. People are going to look at me and say, man, that guy with the gray hair, how did he live this long in that fantasy? Because um, I'm doing it because I really like the idea of what I believe the cooperative says or about work and the structure of work, how it's structured now. And I believe that we need to learn, how to work with each other as workers. I would like to not see the hierarchy as it is right now in all of the workplaces, to where there's a very small group of people at top telling a very large amount of people what to do, how to do, where to do, and then not include them in on what are we going to do with the profits. The workers, I believe, are the ones that are creating that profit, etc. Therefore, they should be the ones to say, okay, here's what we're going to do with this money. So I just want to say, you know, whoever that is too, that happens to be, black or white or Asian, we can all do this no matter what it is, whatever kind of business it can be in a cooperative form. And so I I can't, I don't know what story to tell, about
What
that.
made you, what attracted you to the co-op? What's your what even caught your eye? What made it so sexy?
The fact that workers like myself, and I've worked for quite a few different places, that we can also be the owners slash directors
That's it.
and move it forward the way that we would all like it. But it seems to be when I talk to people about this, that they think that's a fantasy because you got to have a boss, somebody telling us what to do. And, otherwise, there's going to be the one person who's lazier than the rest and everybody else. It's going to upset the way it's going to flow because nobody's going to work with them. And then there's going to be fighting all the time. It's always that negative impact because, we've been taught to compete all of our lives growing up here in these United States of America. And instead of learning how to cooperate with one another. And that's the part that just gets to me that I hope that I'm able to help one of these businesses form into, that utopian, even not we can do it. I mean, it's happening right now in America anyway. In New York, what is that? It's in the Bronx. I know that they have one of the cooperatives that work, and I mean they do work. And then Arizmendi Bakery, they're in Northern California. Well, actually in San Francisco area. You know, they've been functioning quite well as a cooperative. And boy, CHCA, Cooperative Home Care Associates out of the Bronx. It works for them, and those people who work there, they also own and direct it. And when we went for a loan here in Las Vegas, they were asking, well, who's the CEO or who's the person, and we did have people of responsibility in place so that the bank, when they spoke with us, they knew, okay, we're going to come to him or her for the money. But we rotated throughout the years, of who was going to be president, who was going to be secretary, and whoever else we needed. So I still have a lot to learn in that respect of how we're going to be looked at when we go in to ask for money. And I'm done.
No,
That's it.
that's good. So it sounds like you have some experience in it, and you see how it works. And I've seen we have a few co-ops, so I know they're a beautiful concept. We have restaurants, housing co-ops right here in Baltimore, a staffing co-op. So it's I think you're absolutely right. People don't know what they don't see. So you just have to show them so they can see something different. That's it. I think it's Mr. Jeff, it's that simple. And I see what you're saying. So now that's all you just show them. We won't entertain the negativity. Look how beautiful this is.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's perfect.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome. Thank you. All right, who we have next? Let me go down. Because we family now. I'm about to start calling on y'all this Saturday morning. Okay, so Crystal, Miss Martin, Damon went, Miss Tiffany went. I don't see this person. Somebody's driving. My driver? Is that Farmer Chippy? Hey!
What's up, Tom,
You got
man?
a bunch to say.
I'm over here celebrating in a planned sale. This is our first planned sale, CSA. Amazing, I tell you. It's a drive-through. How you doing, girl?
See the plans real quick, and then we're gonna get back on track. We're gonna get back on track. Ah, nice. Okay, so that's it. That's your why right there, Farmer Chippy. That's it. You like to be out in the plans, getting dirty.
We doing it. We doing it. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm good, man. I'm glad I could join because I missed the last time you were here. So I'm glad I could sneak in for a minute to listen to your presentation.
No, this is our presentation now. We right up. We gotta get some money from these banks.
That's right. That's right. So I hear you talking about the way we ask for money. I heard somebody. I came in when somebody was. So you and I. Yeah, you and I talked. Yeah, you and I talked about this before.
So
So
we're
now.
talking for money. We haven't gotten to the money part yet. We're just talking about the character. What makes you special? What's your why? Where that's that first couple of lines in that business plan or summary. So it's no question.
Got any more eggplant? Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you want to give me a quick you have just a quick 30-second why? What drove you to be where you are today?
So one of the main things was the fact that the bank denied me all the time. Every time I bend into shape, they whip me back and tell me, go back and do it again. Get this and get that, and you didn't get this, and what about last year's this, and what about this and that? And every time I go to them, they would say no. So I decided to not go to them ever again. And with that, I sort of created I don't know, I call it bad mind, where I just focus on one group of people and say, I'm never going to deal with them again. So it just kind of motivated me to earn my own revenue, put it away, and team up with other people like minds, put our money together. And that's how we are here today. You know, prior to COVID-19, we did not get any funding. Our money came from PCDA. That's it. And when they came and the city and them came and saw us, that's when they wanted to join us. So it brings that saying that Maya Angelou brings and says, do your work so well that they cannot take their eyes off of you. Do you understand? So if we come together and we push together collectively, we do our work so well, the banks will ask us what we need. That's how I feel. Yeah.
I do get that, and y'all know I'm very blunt. Whoever writes the check has the power. So I do agree with you, and it's a game. So you can't go to someone else's game or go into someone else's house and say, I'm gonna change your rules, I'm gonna make you give money. So what I like to say is, okay, let's play the game they want me to play. If you want me to write this little pretty story up, I'm gonna write it up. I gotta play your game. And it's not always fair rules, because guess what? They write in a check, they can change the rules at any time. So it's just a matter of us knowing the template, knowing the formula. And the formula, sometimes it doesn't work for us wherever we are in business. Sometimes you just gotta say, you know what, I totally agree with you. We're not quite there. I'm gonna tell you during this COVID, and I've been telling any client that would listen, this is the time to go get PPP or idle money if you're able to use that and leverage it to make more money. Because the SBA, I have never seen in this history where they've given out money so freely. It is never. I dreaded doing SBA packages. It was like doing the whole giving up the firstborn. It required so much information in them. So this has been, I don't want to, a blessing in disguise for small businesses. And even with those, but we had to have different things in place. You had to been in business prior to February 2020. You had to be in good standing. You had to file your taxes. And that's where they're getting us in this game here. Because we can't avoid Uncle Sam. So what I'm saying is, don't have Uncle Sam come to you. Be proactive. Give him your stuff. Let's file those taxes. But that's on another. Y'all know it's May 15th for the tax deadline coming up, so I'm still in tax mode. But I like that. So we talked about our character. Now let's get into that. Did everybody get a chance to talk? I see a NA. NA, are you able to talk? Miss Anderson?
I haven't
She's been
spoken.
having issues. Oh, go ahead, Miss Gordon.
Hi. My name is Jill Gordon. I'm part of the Plantation Park Heights. I'm the school outreach.
Thank you so much for holding. How can I help?
I'm the school outreach coordinator there. I've been working with children for over 20 years in arts and nature programming, and I'm very passionate about being a positive person in the lives of children. And I'm also very interested in connecting children with nature and with the earth. And so it kind of all ties together with teaching children to grow food and to be outside digging in the dirt and building community with each other. So and also as Crystal and Miss Marilyn has expressed about encouraging healthy food outcomes, healthy food, and just add to that, I really believe that food really connects people. It kind of creates community. It's something that we can share and enjoy together, have fun, and it also just kind of connects everybody, no matter what your culture background is. Everybody likes to eat. So that's my why.
Thank you, Joe, for sharing. I like that. I hear we have some consistencies across the board with the youth and the gardening. I like that. Did I miss anybody else? Go through. All right, did everybody get to speak? Okay. Well, what I would say is if you didn't or are having technical issues, you can share in the chat what you want to share. But we'll go on to the next. The credit. So credit, of course, if you're a startup business, they're going to look at personal credit. If you know you have challenging personal credit, what I say is then you build some business credit. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it's a quick fix. Or you leverage a partner who have decent credit. So for loans, and I'm gonna say this is my ongoing battle with banks and with CDFIs. where they say, okay, we just go strictly on the business credit, and we don't necessarily look at personal. And that was even with this PPP and EIDL, it put in black and white. It's not dependent on your personal credit. So, but they're still asking for your social security number, and they're still asking for date of birth, and they're still doing a soft pull on your credit.
Mm.
And the other issue is if you had a bankruptcy, you were automatically denied. And that was personal and where it wasn't related to the business. So that was an issue that I do have with these banks. It doesn't matter if they ask for your social security, they pull in credit. And what they do tell you, so and I was on toe to toe with SBA and with the bank, because it does say in black and white, it's not based on your personal credit. And you know what SBA ended up telling me? Well, it's at our discretion if we can issue the funds or not. Like, they got so tired of talking to me and me referencing, because I'm a policy. If it's in black and white, you can't tell me it's wrong. But they got me at the end. It's at our discretion. You know, that real tiny print. So with that, before you even get into the heartache, if you know you have challenging personal credit, then you leverage someone who has decent credit, because all of these applications are asking for your social. Unless they do not ask for your social and it's strictly on your EIN number, then I say you can move forward.
But isn't that also tied to, I mean, if they're not an owner in a corp company, you can't use their credit score. Is that true?
You cannot. So
Right.
you cannot use their credit score. So then we make
Automatically
them
have to gain.
No,
I'll
you
make
can
them
make them.
partner.
Yeah,
Oh,
why not?
that's a good. Yeah, that's a good point.
Here's a question for you. This
Mhm.
money that the federal government has allocated to us, wasn't that supposed to go to the folks who were left out?
Yes.
Well, all right then. So here's the question. Why are we even dealing with the bank and loans when we can just wait and deal with the federal government, who have to give the money to those who were left out?
Okay, so Farmer Chippy, they're not going
Mhm.
to just give out the money. You know this. This is still a game. So they still going to you have to come through and apply. And guess what? If the money sits there, they're going to say, oh, well, we allocated it. We have to return it. So we still have to go through the channels. It's still going to have to funnel through the bank. It's still going to have to funnel through to the CDFIs.
But here's the question, Charmaine. This is where like I get lost, right? If we're
Okay.
going to change the conversation, and this is the moment to do it, why are we still dependent on these people? Why are we dependent on these banks? This is the moment where Kamala has decided that she'll tell them how to spend the money, right? So we are here now. Why aren't we advocating or getting larger groups of black people together and getting them in shape? Like me and you can get in shape, 10 people on this call can get in shape, but what about the 50 people who aren't on this call? What are we doing as leaders to shape up our people to access this federal money without the bank?
So what I'm saying is that's a larger problem. That's not going to happen by the end of this year. So I think
So,
that's an ongoing, we have to put elected officials in place and then come back and support them with changing this legislation. So that has to be our ask before Kamala steps into office. It has to be our ask before Joe Biden steps into office. Look, for us to support you, we have to recognize the power of our vote. Well, right now, we're electing people and saying, oh, they're going to do right by us. And that's not guaranteed. We got to go before they step in office. We have an election year with delegates and that is a state election next year. Even at the governor's level, we need to go and interview all the elected, anybody that wants to be running for governor, and say, look, this is our ask. If you want our collective votes, this is what we're looking for. We're looking for this legislation. We need to have a delegate that's willing to sponsor, a senator that's willing to sponsor this bill so we can push it on through. Right now, we're on the back end of it. We wait, they already elected. They're not thinking about it. It's 4 years. All they're saying is, look, we did our part. We allocated the funds to you.
so
I do want to just chime in just with two things.
Yeah,
One,
please do, Ron,
that
please.
banks um, always have the ability to call, or what is called, portfolio loans. And that's the loans that they make that they don't repackage and sell in the secondary market. And so understanding that way of how loans are sold, particularly looking back over our shoulders in terms of 206, 207, 208, and how those loans were sold and packaged out in the secondary market worldwide to investors. So we have to be more advocate oriented to when we talk about local financing from local banking institutions. We got to look to not having loans that are packaged for selling in the secondary market, but loans that can be packaged and held by various different banks until they mature enough to sell out into the secondary market. And so that secondary market is really big, and we saw that play out in 2008. The other thing, Farmer Chippy, I would just want to just share with you and those in the room today is that there is a movement afoot to address how banks are responding to Black and Brown communities nationwide. There's an effort in Baltimore to bring 11 banks to the table to create a $30 billion plan of reinvesting back in Black and Brown communities among Black and Brown businesses and organizations. And so I'll be sending something out to all of you over, if not today, over the next day, in terms of some of these conveniences going on. Just had a major meeting took place in Detroit with PNC Bank around an $88 billion reinvestment plan as they do business in Black and Brown communities. And those organizations in Detroit came together collectively. And so there is a movement afoot. We're doing some work down here in the DC area, bringing people together to share in this discussion, because we have to demand. We all at some point do banking with banks. And so banks have to be mindful and respectful of us as customers. But we have to be able to organize to demand that. Otherwise, as Ms. Davis said, they take our resources and they take it and reinvest in other communities without first investing in the communities that we identify as community needs. So we got to get a little more educated about how legislation works and how we need to use this legislation to advocate more on our behalf. Yeah. So I just wanted just to chime in with that bit of information to
Yeah,
all of you.
may I piggyback as well, Mr. Hance? We I had the pleasure of participating in a chat and chew this week with Delegate Brooke Learman, who is actually running for comptroller. And I was able to use some of the information from last week's meeting and kind of bring some specific requests to Ms. Learman, in reference to providing capital specifically to Black and Brown businesses, kind of as we discussed last week. And one of the things that Ms. Learman brought to my attention is that what typically drives the funding is data collection, right? And of course we believe that it's obvious. It's obvious. You can qualitatively look through communities and we can say, this is what's happening. But unless they have specific test studies done by specific organizations that specifically tie each individual to a dollar amount, they are less inclined, I guess, to spearhead these funding campaigns, I guess, for communities. And so one of the things that Ms. Learman suggested is that we actually conduct a formal study, have an organization conduct a formal study with data to present to the state to say, like, look, this is an issue, because she said that actually data is coming in to support the opposite. And so she's going to provide me with one of those studies as well, because I'm like, where are you? Who's doing the studies that's showing that Black and Brown businesses are reaping all these benefits? So I just want to share that as well.
Well, let me just piggyback on what you're saying. The data is already there. All of these banking institutions are governed by two institutions. One is the control of the Treasury, and the other is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corp. All banks are covered by these two federal institutions. So data around HMDA data is always collected. They're required to collect this data on who they're lending to, what geographic areas they are doing lending. And so, yes, I certainly agree with you, but there are groups already that are collecting this data and putting this data back in the private marketplace. Now, what we do need from Ms. Lieberman and other state legislators is to have a CRA plan and accountability for these banking institutions that operate within state borders.
What's the
And so
CRA? What's the CRA plan?
well, I'm sorry. Thank you, Damon. Community Reinvestment Act, which was passed in 1977. So look it up, folks, because
That's already there, though. That's
no, no,
already
no,
there.
no,
Like,
no, 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 no. Let me talk for a second. That plan, that legislation that was passed in 1977, only had the descriptor of low to moderate income identifiers within its preview. Now, over the years, community groups have advocated that it has to have a racial identifier attached to it. So not just low to moderate income, but also racially, where are these banks making their investments? How are they doing their lending in racially demographic communities? This is the first time since the legislation was passed in 1977 that now we're looking at the data racially versus income. So this is, again, this is a big effort that's going on in Baltimore, and it's going on throughout 8 or 9 other cities where it's being led by people of color to demand a reassessment of how banks are deploying their resources in our communities.
What if you don't have? What if you have zero faith in all of that? Like no, like you're so disenfranchised, you don't believe none of that crap.
We got to
Because
build our own fund. That's
there you
it.
go, there you
That's
go. And
like
so it's a combination of the two. It's the combination of the two. You got to play this filthy ass game while you
Yep.
building your own infrastructure and community. And it's going to be a 200, 300-year process, intergenerational, and you got to be
what?
cool with.
We're not going to do that, bro. I am not going to do that 200, 300 years. Listen, brother, listen. 1970, I was inside of a mother's belly on the islands of Trinidad and Tobago listening to revolution talk.
Right.
1968, a man put his hand in the air and said black power. I was unable to do anything up until this time. I
Yeah.
talked to the bank 17 times. They turned me down 17 times. I am not sitting here and listen to no talk about kumbaya or take it easy or one day at a time, one step at a time. Well, let's creep before we walk. I ain't listening to none of that, Dread. All
Well,
I'm
that's the
telling
sign
you
of that's the
guys,
sign, Farmer Chimney. That's the sign of genius. You got to be able to hold two different ideas in your head. You
yeah,
talking
no problem.
revolution? You're talking revolution. I'm all for that, but at the same time, you got to have institutions that support this revolutionary change that comes out of it. You got to have both at the same time, because all you're gonna be doing is revoluting instead
But
of
listen,
institutions.
listen, homeboy, listen. How can you ask me to usher my children into a college named Howard University and pretend that it's the #1 HBCU, but it's named after General Howard, who is a colonizer? How you want
Yeah,
me to sit comfortable with that?
I'm not saying sit comfortable with it. I ain't saying you gotta sign
Well,
up
let's
for.
shake it up. We have the solution. Let's cause some problems, bro. Let's cause some problems. Let's get some
Yeah,
people out there making some noise because we have the solution.
and I'm not
It's
saying
just
that
that
that's not Farmer Chippy.
it's just that so many.
I'm
But
not saying
listen,
we're
listen.
not doing that. I'm not saying we're not doing that. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm not saying
I
we
don't.
don't doing that. But at the same
I don't think
time,
we're doing it enough. I don't think we're doing it
well, that's
enough. I think so many of us have been colonized because we've been taught by them. We went to their school and we make it to the highest level, PhDs and masters, and we come out here and we regurgitate the very thing that they taught us. And now we're here lost as hell. We can't even lead our own
I
revolution. We don't
I
control our
agree.
money. We don't
Farmer
control our
Chippy,
food.
Farmer
We don't
Chippy,
control our
Farmer
economy.
Chippy.
We're sitting here talking about.
You ain't saying nothing that don't nobody agree with. But you can't show your hand.
But I
You
can't
can't show
hear
your hand.
y'all. I sitting with Negroes. I sitting with Negroes. And I can't hear no revolution. I hearing turn into this position to accept whatever they give me. I am not doing that.
Now that's not what you hear from me. That's what you hear from everybody else.
This
You
is
damn sure ain't
this is
hearing
the
that from me.
tone. The tone is just be cool. You'll be all right. You'll get through. I don't care about me getting through. What about these children that I have with me? How are they going to get through? This is my problem. And we have to make this move now, or we are making this move at all. I ain't waiting no 20 years, and I ain't waiting no 100 years.
That's the
So we
part
got to
we
talk a
don't.
little bit with a
That's the
little
part where we
fire.
don't see eye to eye.
Yeah, we all agree that the urgency is there for me. I don't
Yeah,
think anybody
I
on
don't think
here.
nobody's going against that.
No,
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody's agreeing with that.
we're just saying we gotta ride this from both sides. We gotta have the people out there really fight, and then we gotta have somebody behind the scenes getting some money to
it's rules
support
to
the
the
people.
game, and we
That's
gotta,
all
play
we gotta
it.
hit it from both angles. That's all we
Let's
saying.
have that conversation then. Let's have
Yeah,
that conversation. I
this
like
ain't
that
that space.
conversation. But this sort of dependency on banking money, I don't want to hear that. I don't want no
Yeah, I don't
banker
want
in
to hear
my
that talk
cipher.
either. I don't want to hear
I
that
don't want
talk
to hear
either.
nothing about the bank. They don't like me and I don't like them. So we have
But,
a lot in common. You know, I
but,
am so dread. I am ready to meet with the KKK to tell them we're in agreement.
but
You
here's the
stay
thing:
on that side and I'll stay on this side.
the bank
Well,
is our money too. We're not leaving that money on the table. That's ours too.
Right.
We're not
Right.
leaving that
Honey,
table.
the federal government will give me my money, the state government will give me my money, local municipalities will give me my money, and all those people who spent the last 40 years building on the backs of poor people, they will pay. All of them will pay. We have enough lawyers, doctors, and engineers that will make sure they pay. We need to come together under a sweet agenda, and the agenda is one agenda. 40,
but
20 years from now, we should be controlling our own work and managing our own resources.
That's
Chippy,
it.
And we've got to do that by empowering our children. That is the conversation I want to have. I don't want
but
to talk about white people. I don't want to talk about colonizers. I don't want to talk about the financiers of currently. I want us to talk about us and our welfare. I don't care about them. I'm not positioning to receive their money. I'm positioning to demand what is mine. They don't have anything from me. I don't want anything from them. What they have is mine. They hold my money. I give them the authority to hold my money.
Farmer
Go
Chippy,
ahead now. I pause now.
your perspective is your perspective. Your perspective is
Right.
no one's
Pause now for
arguing.
yours.
But when you talk about banks in this country, understand where they get their capital from. Where do they get their capital from?
It's
They get
our
their capital
money.
from the U.S. government. That's why we have a treasury. That's why all this work that you're seeing now that's going on since COVID have been inspired by the treasury. Treasury finance banks. That's why we have an international monetary fund where every country is contributing to an international financial system. So I think that I'm not disagreeing with you. We have 20 black banks,
I
20,
need
20 black banks nationally that we can invest in. There's one in Baltimore called Harbor Bank.
I'm tripping. You breaking up?
Yeah, there's one in Baltimore called Harbor Bank. And so if you want to move this work in some sense, yes, we develop our own institutions. I believe that, but we also have to utilize the institutions that are there because we do make investment in banks. I bank, and I'm going to hold those banks that I put my dollars in to a level of accountability in how they treat me as a customer. I'm not going to let them off the hook. I'm not going to let them off the hook. I'm not going to give them an opportunity to walk away and say anything other than meeting the demands of the community. So there's work out there. People have been doing this work for a number of years. So
I don't
yeah,
think Farmer Chippy was able to hear any of that because he was breaking in.
We gotta look at liberation takes a lot of different pathways. There's no one's pathway to liberation. I don't believe it. It's never been historically, and there's always more than one way to do things. Just have to be able to organize and mobilize people to do that. There could, and one of the things I have not talked about, and we've not talked about, is how to. And I've been trying to get someone into this conversation about how you can create some local community investment funds in your own community. We've not had that elevated conversation. How you bring the capital that's in your community to support your work that you're doing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of work. There's a lot of that work being done across the
Yeah,
country right now. So
that's right. That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
there's I think there's different fronts for change, and that's the main thing. There's
Yeah.
different lines of engagement in the game of change.
Well, after all that intense stuff, let's take a little break. Farmer Chippy, we get you back in this room, man. Let's take it's about a quarter after 11. Let's take a 15-minute break, folks, so to kind of de-escalate ourselves. Let's come back in about 11:30 so we can get recharged and if you don't mind, Ms. Davis, we'll get recharged and come back into the space. Okay. Thank you. All right, folks. 11:30. Let's come back in. Take a break for the good. Charmaine, can I talk with you offline while we breaking?
Yeah, definitely.
Give me a call
Okay, will
on my
do.
mobile.
On your mobile. Okay.
Ah,
Uh, I love the energy. I love that people getting fired up about money, finances. I love it. Let's go. And I think it's that energy that we need. It does change the our narrative.
yes,
Like I said, whoever writes the checks though, it's their game.
yeah.
And it's hard changing outside if you waiting on that check trying to change their rules
Mm,
because it's their money.
yeah.
Now, I think the narrative we can play if our money is in their bank, that's the power because they're leveraging our deposits to invest and lend out money. So I think
Hmm.
that's a different narrative.
Mm,
But with that, okay, so we talked a little bit about credit and building up business credit, having that EIN number stand on your own. There are some resources out there that can help with the business credit, like through Dun and Bradstreet and NAB. I'm gonna say that's just a start. And if anybody else have any resources, they can put them in the chat for as far as building up your business credit. But I'm gonna go on to our capacity where we're doing the cash flow and we're looking at a projection. So what I'm gonna do, let me see if I can switch this up. And pull up our cash flow. So this is actually from a CDFI for the state of Maryland. And this is one of they asked for a 3-year cash flow as a part of their application. This particular example, they started back in, they were asking for it. They did the application in 2019, so they had to do 2021 and 22. So with this, all it is showing all the income you anticipate receiving and your cash expenses that you anticipate going out. If you fill those in, it kind of automatically populates what your cash on hand would be. So what I would say with this is it has to tie in to your strategy. This can't be some pie in the sky, like, you know what, I feel like this is going to be a $50,000 month. We have to say, how can we quantitatively support whatever income and expenses that we have? So I'm not saying they have to be 100% accurate, but if someone says, and so for this one, this example is for a computer repair shop in sales, and they had 11,000 per month for January and February. Something switches up. He said usually in the springtime, traditionally they've seen a computer sales go up, where people want to do a spring cleaning or switch out at the end of the school year, and then it spikes up again at back to school time. So it has to be some, or they do their springtime promotions to sell and offer, what do you call them, like those trade-in allowances. Whatever it is, we have to say, how are we going to, how are we planning on generate income? So the shout out that I want to say for all my nonprofit organizations, I want you to look at grants as a temporary vehicle. That's
mm,
temporary funds. That should be those funds should be used as a mechanism on how I'm gonna generate income. So regardless, it doesn't have to be, don't have to seek out be a $1 million agency, but how am I going to leverage these grant funds so I can end up generating some type of income to be self-sustaining?
mm,
So now, nonprofits gives you the ability that you're not being taxed on your profit or loss. However, you can get innovative. You can sell speaking engagements. You can sell publications. You can have fees for service where you're charging a modest fee. So even if you are saying, oh, we provide, just say mental health support, or we're providing the bag of vegetables, you can be a CSA. where it's a membership. If you pay XYZ, but it's essentially cheaper than if you were in a grocery store CSA. So it's that would be the one thing I would want you to explore. So banks and funders and grantors, they will kind of shy away if you become grant dependent, unless it's a contract. So for those who have contracts, it would be like a state contract. For all my youth organizations, sometimes the Department of Social Service will pay for different contracts if you're going to service the foster population, foster children. So then you can say, okay, I will have a contract with Department of Social Service to serve 100 kids and teach them how to teach them all about urban gardening. Just example. So, and for my for-profit organizations, the LLCs and the S corps, then it's just a matter of, okay, what are we doing, and how can I increase revenue? What are some of the factors that allow me to increase? And is it the word just escaped my mind, but if I increase, let's say, my salaries, does that mean my revenue increase? Incremental? Are they incremental increases? If my salaries increase by 20%, does that allow my revenues to increase by 40%? Or if I increase marketing, or if I invest 10% per month into marketing, is that a 50% increase in revenue payoff? So it's just looking at, you don't have to be the expert and pulling together this type of spreadsheet, but you should know your numbers. And know your numbers so well that if you give it to an accountant and they prepare this, and so we're not that intimate with your numbers. We like to do standard percentages and say, okay, we'll say it's a 3% increase from year to year, or 5% increase, where you may say, no, in the beginning of the year, this was a special year. That's why my revenue was increased. So the beginning of next year, it may be half of that, or whatever it is. But just understand where your income is coming in at, and understand how that affects your expenses. And you may not know the cumulative numbers, but you should know, hey, if I have 5 people that's working for me, I know the 5 people get $100 a week. And then we can calculate what that looks like annually. And some of the things that I like to talk about, for everybody, every person that you have working with you, what is their output? Are they generating income, or is it value added services that comes to your organization? And those, it kind of helps you kind of zone in on your business and how much time you're investing in it, and what's your return on your investment. So even for your own business, how much time are you investing, and how much are you expecting in return? I think I said this, but because I usually preach it to my small businesses and startup. You wouldn't work for free for anybody else. Your time is money, and you're the expert in whatever services or products that you're providing. So we have to make sure we meet that output to make sure you're compensated. And anybody else that you bring in. Because I think a part of the co-op is not just one person eat, we all eat.
Charmaine, going back to one of the earlier points you made in terms of cash flow and tying that to your budget. One of the things that we've been doing organizationally, every year we establish a operating budget for the year, and that's based on not actual but projections.
Okay.
And so now we're now finding some of those projections are now turning into actual costs. And so now we find ourselves now readjusting our budget mid-year because we projected certain costs around doing certain activities, but now we've gotten some real costs now that we're plugging in. So when should an organization budgetarily start to look at that? When they start, whether that their calendar fiscal year is, when they're doing their projected budget, and then going back and really actually applying actual costs to that to the line item budget items.
So I think you brought up a good point. So the budget is a working document. So it's not, some people will say, oh, okay, I created a budget and that's it. But you may pivot or things change or increase. So generally, when I was working with an organization, if they had a calendar year end, December 31st, I would start working on next year's budget in July of the prior year. Not because of, and this was on nonprofit, because you know, with nonprofits, you have to apply for grants and it may be 6 months before you get the funding, especially for the larger grants. So I would start in July, putting together writing the list of all the grants that we applied for, the funding that was attached to it, and the expenses that were attached to it. And I tried to make each grant able to operate independently, where it's not dependent on the receipt of another grant. So that way, if I apply for 5 grants and I receive 3, I can just cut off those 2 and not have the staff associated with those 2 and just run the other 3. And then I would do another evaluation of the grants, probably about March or April, because by then I should know which grants I'm receiving, not receiving, are the other opportunities that have arisen that I'm applying for that I need to adjust my budget, adjust my budget for. So I did it March, April, but you could do mid-year. So I'll do like but the reason why I didn't do mid-year, because usually around July, I would start working on next year's budget. And then with nonprofits, I have to present them to the board. So it's an ongoing, like a working process. And it's not me working on the budget in a silo. It's me working with project directors, it's working with the staff, it's working with, okay, so what are some of the challenges? What worked, what didn't work? How do we make this better? Me working with HR, how are we looking on staffing? Is this a program is worth pursuing? And then looking at the climate, looking at the data. So it's a team approach. And I think it was Ms. Page, that data drives everything. I'm a numbers person, so the data drives everything. And the organization I was working for, this one, it was a public health organization. It focused on preventing infant mortality. And with that, so every year, in the beginning of the year, I was looking at infant mortality numbers, and then we had to look at census tracts and say, okay, what communities are we experiencing more infant deaths or stillborn deaths? And what are the underlying conditions of that community? Is that in a food desert? Is homelessness? Are there a lot of, is it a high crime rate? Like, even though we were focused on infant mortality, we had to look at the whole picture of because all of that feeds into it. I think, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. I'm gonna call you nurse. Like with the nurse that's connected to the urban garden, and my vegetarian, and to the vegan, and to the Miss Crystal and public health, all of that connects. So we need to be pulling up crime stats. How many substance abuse houses are around there? How many rehab centers are in that community? How many liquor stores are in that community? How many grocery stores are there? And then what's the health? What is some of the ailing conditions of that community? And how does this garden help improve that Because when we grow kale, what are the benefits of a family eating kale, collards, all of that? That provides, I'm gonna say, I don't know, vitamin A, D, E, or whatever it is, and that helps absorb some XYZ. Is it because they being in the garden that increases the vitamin D? Vitamin D helps with depression. Does that, so it's everything is driven by the data and it all connects. Because even though you say, okay, we're just working with the garden, how does that reduce crime? Because you're keeping kids off the streets. So we just have to find, and unfortunately, I think, Ron, you were speaking about how do we get the data with the CRAs, with these banks, and saying, are they meeting the numbers of supporting businesses of color and supporting reinvesting in our communities? They make the numbers say what they want them to say. And we know this because I was studying those reports. And what was interesting, they don't break out minorities.
Right.
So when I kept asking, okay, how many Black businesses are funded? I could not find that data.
No.
So minority is defined in this particular area. That can be a white female, Asian, Indian, and Black. And it's self-reporting.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, that's why I preface that by saying the legislation now has changed this year for the first time in terms of being able now to capture racial data. Previously, it was just low to moderate income data.
Yeah.
But now it's gone down to another level, looking at how these banks are lending racially. So this would be the first time, and I think those changes are now coming around in June of this year. I think they're slowly, for starting to capture that data racially in June of this year.
And I see some. I just someone just sent me an article the other day regarding Biden's administration is really is exploring the whole inequities and about the racial gaps between education funding, all types of resources across the board, where they're obligating OMB to report how the not even how they're supporting, but how's their equality are going across. So we're not asking for handouts. We're just saying, give us the same opportunity you give anybody else.
Yes. Yes.
So it's yes, but back on the budget, I think that yep, it's so much that goes into this numbers. Like I can't stress enough, that tells your story. And I like that. And it's so much bigger than, okay, I'm working with the youth. Like when I see you working with the youth, okay, we're reducing crime, increasing employment, you that affects the recidivism, reentry rate. I mean, and it's so, and for my nonprofits or the ones that work with fiscal agents, you see what the initiatives are for this year or this administration. If they work if a lot of resources are going to reentry, or a lot of resources going into agriculture, you follow the resources and say, okay, I have this program. You can, it doesn't matter if it's agriculture or reentry, that the gardening program can make it work. Either one of those grants they can apply for. It's all in how you write it up. And it's all in how you tell your story. So I think and you can create a budget for that. And it's about leveraging resources. So even if you're not the person that handles the reentry, I'm sure it's another organization out there that's their specialty, where they work with the reentry youth on that. That sounds like a partnership with the garden. So I think I think now is the time we put that passion with a plan and think outside the box. I think it's bigger than and even with this just came to me working with the youth. We have some seniors out there that are full of knowledge. How do we incorporate our seniors in? Because we don't have to just work with one population. We could partner with a senior population. I'm working with another organization, and the seniors, they all come and volunteer weekly at a food pantry. And they asked me, they was like, we need something else to do. We need some interaction. We need to get out the house. And I was like, well, aren't you concerned with the COVID? They like, look, we want to get out. And I feel terrible because I'm like, heck, I don't even know how can I connect? But I hear so many opportunities. Hey, come on, let's get you down there to the plantation. And that was one of the things that Farmer Chippy and I were speaking about. I was like, you got the youth, I have the seniors. How do we connect that? So I think I'm a end with Mr. Jeff's words. I think co-op is a beautiful thing. It leverages all our resources, our skill sets, and our expertise, and we can pull it together and really move forward where we're all eating and all getting compensated for our work. So I think it's just a matter of if you can hire someone to put together, and I'll send out this template if you want to have fun with it. But you can hire, that's the small part. I'm gonna tell you the biggest part is getting in your minds to say, so some of the questions that I would ask if, and I met with Ms. Page and Mr. Martin, since they won our last Kahoot, we did I gave them an hour free consultation where we went over their business plan and talked about some of their plans. It blows my mind the wealth of information and the resources that we have at our fingertips. I'm always impressed. I just like to put it to numbers. So all of you, just in 5 minutes, everybody on here gave me what their story was. And some people like, I don't know. Everybody's story was different. And if I had $1 million for everybody, everybody would get it today, because I heard the passion. I heard everybody's trying to make a change. It wasn't nobody on here was saying, well, you know what, I'm trying to get paid and get that money. It was all like, look, we got to make a change, and it's now. So with that, let's get that plan out of your head. And y'all just started your plan with those couple of lines, the little paragraphs. So now and you don't have to be any format. The next step is, how are you going to implement, and how are you going to generate income and be compensated for all this good work? And be outside the box. It doesn't have to be the customer you serving, but somebody is willing to pay for your data. They're willing to pay for your relationships with the community. They're willing to pay for your relationship with corporations, with the schools, with the government. People are willing to pay for that. So make sure you leverage that. Well, good people, as always, boy, y'all got me fired up. I'm excited. I can't wait to hear the next steps. Ron, when is graduation from this? Because y'all I gotta follow them.
Adriana, can you what is our last day for this spring cohort?
I believe it is June 19th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, June 19th.
June 19th, baby.
Bobby's on. I did have a question.
I love it.
Yeah, I think Damon has a question.
Okay.
How because as we look at community investments, how have you seen those where they're high risk but high impact? I heard you mention like what values banks are willing to pay for, and maybe this is more of a CDFI question, but have you seen proposals where impact is more important than revenue or return, and how are those typically handled, or even like decided upon within like financial institutions?
Oh, absolutely. I've seen where impact exceeded revenue. However, you have to slide that revenue in. I'm gonna tell you, one of them was it was a couple. They were doing dump trucks, just dumping trucks. Their driver was their son. Their son was doing dump trucks, and they came in and said, "Look, this is life or death. We gotta find. My son can't maintain a job. I gotta find something." He was doing this dump trucking job with another company. It was a personality conflict, and they let go of the son. The the couple had some resources, and they said, "Well, we're going to invest in the dump truck because we saw him thriving, and he knew the ins and outs. He was a hands-on type of kid." So, long story short, that became their ministry, to work with young men that had troubled past, but they needed employment. So they went into the dump truck business, but they exclusively hired these not kids, young adult males. They on Miss Page territory. So with that, that was the driver, that was her driver of the organization, where she couldn't qualify for a traditional bank, but the CDFI really embraced it. However, she did have the income to support it. And she was so what I helped her do is I still spoke the language. She came up with a beautiful plan. All I did was translate how is she going to use this money. I just put that in kind of accounting terms. How is she going to leverage the funds that she was going to use? And she was going to use it to kind of expand the operation. And I just broke down how she was going to use it, how many people, and how long it would take her to receive the money back. So it made me think of you, because you're with the arts and the construction.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
definitely.
so that made me think. So the impact was the leader. However, the strong backup was the income direct revenue source. And even though they were kind of separate, but you again, you just leverage the relationship. So it's been some others. I've seen it with a school that where funds were available for opening up a school for overaged, undercredited teenagers that had worked, and that wasn't really a revenue source that was coming out of it, outside of being funded by the city. And it took a while for the city to catch on, to really agree to it. But so we were really just leveraging the potential. We didn't even have, we had not one penny. We were kind of leveraging the plan. So with that, and see, when I hear a no, I don't stop at no. Okay, so tell me, what is it you don't feel comfortable with? What did you do? They were like, well, you really don't have any money. But if I get a contract, would you feel a little more comfortable? Because it may take a while for the money to come through. So I just found what made them feel comfortable. They just needed a commitment. Now, it took a year and a half before the school system fulfilled that commitment, but I was able to get it. So I take a no and I dig a little deeper. And I think that's where, based on relationships, you can kind of tell. Some of the bankers are like hard no, like get out of my face. So I don't even try them. But if I get the banker where it's like, can I take you to lunch? And they willing to go to lunch with me, oh, I'm gonna find out what you need and what you're looking for. I'm gonna start the relationship. I don't take the no as a, like, especially if I have my money here, we're not saying no. Okay, what can I do? It's dating. You got to date this bank. What can I do to make it better? And that's yeah.
Miss Davis, can I pose a quick question? I
Sure.
guess my question is about crowdfunding. I've heard that term thrown out quite a bit, and I'm not too savvy about how that works. And I know that many times, you know, when I've talked to financial institutions, one of the things they ask is about matching funds. And so one of the things that Mr. Martin and I are trying to do now is, like, you know, have fundraisers and try to find ways to kind of raise our own funds as we've talked about. So can you kind of shed some light on, I don't know, what that could look like? Thank you.
Uh-huh. So one of the actually one of Ron's alumni from the last session runs it's called Collectively, but it's spelled kind of funky. And I can look it up in a little bit. But anyway, what
Jamie,
it does.
Just take out the vowels. Just take out the vowels. That's all he did.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
He
So
has a
with
great SoCap video out right now. I can share the link. He talks about his business model on SoCap, social capital.
oh, there you go. Okay, thank you. Yeah, but and it's another one, I think Kiva that does it as well. So the way they're doing is leveraging. You come up with a nice marketing plan, and they support you with the marketing plan, and you put it out there to your sphere and everyone else, and have them to support, and different organizations will match the funds that you've been able to raise on your own. So now with Kiva, say for instance you were able to raise, I don't know, $5,000 through your friends, family, and other supporters out there, then they will find corporations that are willing to front another $5,000. Then that becomes a loan that you are paying off. Okay, let me see. Am I still sharing? So I think crowdfunding is a great way to So this is Collectively, who I was just speaking with, and they do the crowdfunding, and you're familiar. So what they'll do is you're basically out there really marketing and promoting for support. You're selling your vision and saying, hey, if you support me. Now, I know Collectively, he does grants with matching funds. So it's not a loan, but Kiva will have corporations do matching loans as a loan, matching funds as a loan. Or you could completely do the crowdfunding on your own, and you create a marketing plan, and you're asking friends and family for or supporters for some type of donation. Like a lot of organizations, remember they used to have the Giving Tuesday, or if it's Autism Month or Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and that's your focus, or whatever the initiative is, and say, hey, come support our initiative. We're having this. Or you're saying we're raising money to launch that so we can support XYZ. The best one I've seen is, I want to say it may have been March of Dimes. And I like, I'm a numbers person. It told you specifically, if you contribute $5, that buys a box of Pampers. If you contribute $10, that buys Pampers and formulas. If you contribute $20, like they gave bite-sized punches, but they told you exactly how it would be used to support, even if you don't use it to support, but it gives you a quantitative to say, okay, if you contribute this much, you can do that. Oh, and the Maryland, I think it's the food bank, they do the same thing. If you contribute $5, that can feed a family of two for a week or a day or whatever. But it really gave little snapshots on how much to contribute, where they're getting. But it's all online, so platforms. So there's a lot of resources out there to do the crowdfunding. You can do it with an organization, without. and just to get it started. The other one, I haven't been on there in a while, is the Kickstart. Is it Kickstarter? It's a lot of them, different ones out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I'm gonna leave collectively out because I really like this. It supports what Farmer Chippy was very passionate about, and just to show that there's a lot of people out here that's doing phenomenal work that's being supported, and this is with where it's kind of supporting the Black organizations.
Yeah. You know, the question, the add on to this conversation that I wanted just to express is that we have to get to, and we should always be mindful of getting this what I call scale in terms of the work that we're doing and how we build scale around capacity. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that I see and have seen with Black organization is building scale. How do you go from your startup phase to more expanded work around what you're doing and being able to attract those resources that allow you to create a broader platform around the work that you're doing so that you can have multiple sources of revenue coming in to your organization, aside from, as you mentioned, Ms. Davis, grants. We get grants, but how do we develop other social enterprises within our organization that's going to be able to help support our work even when the grants aren't being favorable, coming from foundations and others? And so we're continuing to explore that. And I'm hoping that to have at least one person in this conversation before we conclude this this cohort that will come in and share some of their work around just doing that, creating this other avenue for creating and generating resources to do the work that is needed going forth. So we're talking with some folks. We haven't got a commitment yet, but we're talking with some folks about doing that. And if any of you do know some folks that are actually setting up these community-based initiatives to bring in community investors, let me know, and let's see about inviting them in to share some of their learned lessons around how to do that.
Yeah.
Well, Ms. Davis, are there any more? I think that it's getting close to 12 noon, and thank you for your couple hours this morning, as always, that you give to us and give to the participants in this academy. Is there any more questions for Ms. Davis for we sort of bless her along her tax season and her Mother's Day for tomorrow? Well, all of you have her email if you need to reach out to her.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you.
yeah.
No, thank you.
Well,
Thank
Charmaine,
you.
thank you for blessing
Happy
us
Mother's Day.
with knowledge and everything else. And I know I'll be talking to you over the next week after you get past your tax season. We'll get together and break some bread and have some further conversations.
Love to eat. Love to eat. Thank you, everybody. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers and the aunties out there.
Mother's Day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Mother's Day as well.
Thank
Mm.
you.
Not my weekend.
All right.
All right.
Well, again, we've been very fortunate to have a really inspired conversation this morning, and I hope that, you know, as you explore the needs of your organizations, you can see that there are a lot of tools out there that we can utilize to building our work around creating these cooperatively and cooperatively owned and solidarity inspired businesses within our